Okay. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Sean, and if you're listening to this you would be listening to this on our podcast, wouldn't you? You are listening to the Fat Burning Secrets hosted by myself, Sean, co-owner and also head exercise physiologist of this business called Momentum Active. Feels like I haven't said this intro in a while. We do have a special guest, might I add. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Amanda.
Well, hello, Amanda. So if you're someone who is listening to this, typically we talk about things that you can do to be able to help you decrease body fat and help you get a little bit fitter, help you be the best version of yourself. Might that be in aligning with your goals? Today, we're going to be taking a bit of a pivot. We're going to be talking more about the inside because I 100% believe when I say this, that the mind is the driver, the body's just a vehicle. And we need to take more time to be able to look on what's on the inside before we start looking on what's on the outside. So, without any more delay again, Amanda has introduced herself, but just to get you more comfortable with the microphone, I don't think we need too much time, right?
Yeah.
Tell us 3 facts about yourself.
Okay, well, I want to say my name's Amanda, but
No way.
that just reminds me of that scene. My name's Jeff. That's all I can come out with. Okay. Well, yeah. Oh my gosh, only 3. Okay. I am someone who is passionate about seeing people live their best lives. I think that's probably if there's going to be a number 1 of something that sums me up, it's that.
I love that because it's so broad, but it's so great because everyone has a different definition of their best life, right?
100%. Yeah. And I am someone who is living my dream, which is important for me, but by no means does that mean that it's for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a digital nomad. It sounds so wanky saying it, but it's like, I'm a digital nomad. No, but I am because I don't really live anywhere. I don't really necessarily base myself anywhere. I live between summer and winter, and I do all my work remotely, which is fantastic. And I'm out living my best life.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to fill in the gaps there, Amanda. Thanks for those. Amanda is also a yoga instructor.
Oh yeah, that too.
And we just did a class hosted by Amanda, and it is lovely. I've never felt my shoulders burn so much before. I loved it. It was good fun. So I want us to talk about this, okay? Can you tell us more about your experience in yoga and how you got yourself into it?
Yeah, so I think I took my first yoga class when I was probably around, I want to say 20, thinking that it would make me more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't enjoy yoga for a long time. For years, I kept going to random classes, and it was never a regular practice for me. I would go and use it to supplement my gym routine. So I was doing boxing, doing some weights and stuff, and I enjoyed a lot of the other aspects of the gym, and so yoga was just something that was offered there. And I would go along to the classes. My mind would get very bored at times. I would just be like, oh my gosh, when is this going to be over? And so that was just for a long time, that's how it was, honestly. And then I think I took a lot of different style classes, kept going. I think it was just something that I trusted was good for me.
It's kind of like when the doctor goes, go do some exercise, and then you're just like, oh, do exercise.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just not something, I think for me it depends. There are some things that I do for the first time, and I get into it and I love it. And then there are just some things, like running is something I now enjoy at 32. It's taken me 31 years to enjoy it, So, I think I started enjoying it a couple of years ago. But yeah, so yoga was kind of the same. It took me a long time. I started taking classes a lot more regularly. And then, to be completely honest, I only did my yoga teacher training, because I thought it would help me as a freediving instructor.
Mm-hmm.
So my plan was, I'm going to be a freediving instructor because I love freediving. And I thought, okay, if I do my yoga teacher training, I'm going to learn more about the body, understand a bit more of kind of the anatomy and pair the two together to improve my freediving teaching. So I didn't think about teaching classes, and then the moment I started my yoga teacher training, everything changed.
Yep.
So I started enjoying, I don't know, I can't even really describe what happened, but there was just this shift inside of me, and by the second week of my course, I was like, I'm gonna do this. Yeah, this is definitely what I'm going to do, and I haven't stopped teaching since. And yeah, tomorrow will be my 2-year anniversary of when I graduated from my yoga teacher training.
On the same day as your birthday?
Yeah.
By the way, everyone, it is Amanda's birthday tomorrow, so when you're listening to this, it'll be too late to say happy birthday, but you can send her a DM. That's
Thanks.
Cool. No, that's really cool because obviously this is not our first conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm drawing this back because we're talking so passionately about how people want to live their best lives, and
yeah,
I've got a few more dot points just from what you were just saying. And we were saying how people would love to be the best versions of themselves, but there was that thing about will versus want.
Yeah.
Now, what were you saying to be able to give it to people out there who is, yes, and if you're listening to this, more than likely you're going to be like, I want to be fit. I want to be able to lose X amount of kilos. I want to be able to feel comfortable and all that. But the will.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing, isn't it? So this is something that I have been thinking about a lot in the last 6 months. And yeah, it's that want versus willingness. So I do believe that most of us want to be better. And that can mean physically, mentally, emotionally, you know, in a lot of aspects of our lives in general. I do believe there is a desire to improve and to better ourselves. But the more important question to ask is, are you willing to do what it takes to get there? So you can set a goal, right? And that goal might look like, for instance, let's say I want to run a half marathon. And you've never run before. So that's the goal. There's a desire there. But if I say to you, okay, so in order for you to do that, let's say you set it as we'll make goals like specific, right? So they should be smart goals. So the goal is, I want to run a half marathon in 6 months' time, and I want to do it in an hour and a half.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got a very specific goal there in mind. So we want to achieve something. But if I say to you, okay, so you're a non-runner, and to get to that point in 6 months of running a half marathon, this is going to involve some training, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, what is that going to look like? Well, that's going to look like you getting up every day and going for a run. Perhaps it might be, let's say, run a minimum of 3Ks every day for the first couple of months, bring it up to 5 to 10. I don't know. I'm not a running person who knows the training. But the point is, if I were to say to you, are you willing to do this?
Yeah.
That is the moment where we all, I believe, must look inside and be honest with yourself and say, am I really willing to do what it takes to get what I want?
Yep.
And that's a completely different thing, because we all want things.
We all want to be a millionaire.
We all want, well,
okay, maybe some people do, not me.
Yeah, I do think we all want things. We all want to be better. But the attitude to which we approach it, that willingness to say, okay, I will do the hard work, that varies from person to person. And that comes down to a state of the mind. Because the body will do whatever the mind asks it to, right? If you put on your shoes and you leave the house and you will yourself to run, your body will run.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there might be some point way further down where your body is unable to physically take it, but you will run if you want to.
Have you ever heard of this study that was done with mice and they drowned them?
That sounds horrible.
I know it's horrible. This is done in the 50s, might I add, so non-ethical studies.
Oh my goodness.
A teacher told me this. He says, there was actually a research done on mice, and they said that if you were to put them on, like, they were treading water, and there was no one to save them, they would probably last about 3 minutes on average.
Wow.
But then they said if you take the mice out of it after they were treading water for about 2 minutes, nurture them, and then put it back into the water, guess how long they lasted?
5.
Up to almost a day.
What?
Yeah, it was significant.
What?
Because of the hope. They had the feeling of hope, and that's the mind over matter. That's what I like to think of. It's very, very, very far extrapolated.
Yeah.
But that hope of something to happen. And I know it's cheesy now I think about it. It's like, it's kind of like Star Wars and the rebellion. This is very far
Oh my
fetched,
God.
right? We talk on topic, but we also go, we let it go. But like the hope, you know?
Yeah, and I guess perhaps, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, going off your train of thought there, what I'm thinking is, it is difficult, I guess, to muster up the will to do something that is difficult and uncomfortable, especially when you're trying something new. So I get that. And I think by taking that first step, and I remember this is what we were talking about when we were having dinner at your house, was you can stand at the base and be looking up at Everest and it feels impossible, yeah? And you look up and you think, oh my gosh, there's just no way I'm going to make that. But if you look straight ahead and you take that first step, then you take the next one and you keep walking and you take those first steps, it begins, I guess like that's the hope that begins to build because it feels, you take everything back into that realm of possibility.
Yep.
And I suppose for you working in fitness, I'm sure you see this where people come in with really big goals and aspirations, whether it's weight or getting in shape, whatever it is. And that can feel like an impossible mission. But it's, you know,
This is
hey,
one step at a time.
yeah, exactly. How do we take that first step? Because even will and motivation builds upon will and motivation. Like asking me to now go out and run a half marathon, I'm not going to do it. I already know that I won't. The max I've ever run is a 10K, right? So I know me to know that, okay, if you were just to tell me to go and do it, that's not going to happen. However, if you say, okay, let's go out and run, what are you used to? Okay, I'm used to running 3Ks. Let's go out and try and run a 5K. Like, let's just take that.
Yep.
Let's just go out and run first, actually. And then while we're running, let's see where we can go. I think that's important in maintaining a level of optimism and hope towards reaching something.
It's so funny because obviously when we write programs for people, we go, hey, look, this is what we've got to do first. And everyone goes, we just can't get to the gym. Then we start breaking it down. And I go, just put your shoes on. Put your keys in the car in the ignition. Close the door, drive there, sit there. And I say the 2-minute rule. Sit uncomfortably for 2 minutes. And go, all right, you may as well do it while you're here. Or just go inside for 2 minutes. And before you know it, it's one task at a time.
Yeah.
And people just have a look at the big mountain, so to speak, and they go, I can't do it. It's like, did you try to put those shoes on first? Did you pack the bag the day before? Whatever it might have been. And they get really overwhelmed with it. And that brings me to the next topic of that discomfort. And what happens with majority of people when they feel that first sense of discomfort? They tend to either fight or flight.
Yeah.
They fight through it, they run through that damn wall, or they run away from it as fast as possible. And we were talking about this because in today's generation, I believe that a lot of people do get things a little bit easier. Like, I'm going to be that guy going waving my fist at the cloud, going, oh no, back in my day. But in theory, everything is easier in theory. And we were talking about the simplest things like, there's a TV ad, oh dear, you can press skip now after 5 seconds. If not, we just had to sit with the fact that you did not get what you want. Didn't have food, get off your butt, go walk and go at least buy something. Now, what? Open your phone, we can get things here. And that brings us to the discomfort versus resilience as well. Yeah, I believe that in the future, Wall-E, not too far from the future, it's going to happen, I reckon.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, what's this walking sensation? And perspective is such an important thing because I train people who are in their 80s. They fight tooth and nail to get here.
Yeah.
Their doctors say you shouldn't be exerting really hard. So I just want to sit down and talk to my friends and be part of a community. Some of them are like, I make sure that I have my kids picked up, my grandkids picked up after because I'm not sending them to school. I want to make the class. Oh, that's the cutest thing ever. And that's what I'm trying to tell a lot of people around my age is like, there's going to be a day where you're like, I regret not looking after myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your thoughts?
There's so much to unpack there. Okay, so let's see. We were on discomfort, resilience, and then I'm hearing stuff about prevention and kind of stepping into the privileges that we have. So, okay, let's rewind it back. 100% I agree with you. For most of us, we have a lot of privilege and life is certainly easier. And the interesting thing about that is, in a sense, because life has gotten easier, it becomes harder in another respect, right? It becomes harder then to, well, if you've got a car and you don't have to walk between places, well, then it becomes increasingly difficult to find time to exercise.
Yep.
And you're right, if you don't have food but you cook at home, it tends to be easier to then make better food choices, cook healthier meals and whatever. But then with these food delivery services, it becomes, can be harder to make good choices. So that's an interesting thing, that as life gets easier, it simultaneously becomes harder in another respect.
It's one of those things where they say instant gratitude means delayed consequences.
Yeah.
And instant consequences means delayed gratitude.
Yeah.
So if you can get something fast, there's a payback for it later on.
Yeah, that gratification comes later.
I love that one. That's my favorite.
So discomfort. Well, as you know, being in fitness, and for me in yoga as well, this is something that we learn as teachers, is the body will always find the path of least resistance. And I do believe the mind does as well.
100%.
So we tend to, of course, and all of us do this. This is the most natural instinctive thing, is to find what is easy and what is comfortable, what is safe. And then you layer on top of that culture, you look at conditioning of society, you look at, what values you grow up with. And we are told time and time again to make safe choices, do everything that feels safe. So I think, I'm not sure that we are trained as a society to lean into discomfort, which is, it's disappointing, because discomfort is where I truly believe that growth happens. We don't grow without discomfort, in the same way that I'm sure, and I hope I don't botch this, but if you want to grow muscle, for instance, you aren't going to grow muscle lifting a 1 kilo dumbbell over and over and over again, right? Like, you need to put the muscles under some form of stress.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah?
There is like everything in the world and in a life, nothing changes unless there's adaptation.
Yeah.
And the stimulus of training, pruning your garden, whatever it might be, even reading, that's the stimulus to be able to make you do something, so something changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you do not make that stimulus hard enough, either A is like, if you get a scratch on your skin, nothing's going to happen, because you're adapted to past that. Versus if it goes too much, it's not going to heal.
Right.
You're going to find the right amount of damage, so to speak, to be able to be more resilient or strengthen up.
Yeah, so the way a friend of mine described this to me a few years ago, and it stuck out so much, was he's like, okay, so you have your comfort zone, which, for all of us looks a certain way, and then you have discomfort, and then you have panic. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what you're describing there is, we need that level of discomfort. If you go too far into panic, you kind of end up going back, right?
That's the red zone. Stay away from the red zone.
Exactly. Exactly. Red zone, great way to describe it as well. So when you go too far, and then you end up taking a few steps back as a result. So there's this fine balance of stepping into discomfort, really leaning into it, trusting that this is a place where I can grow and learn and have enough pressure that I'm wrestling with something. And that can be physical, emotional, mental, whatever the area of discomfort is. And what happens when we're able to lean into that and grow is that comfort zone starts to expand. So now where discomfort once was, comfort now is.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Put that on a shirt. We're making sales.
Where discomfort once was, comfort now is. Oh, that sounds so good. Okay.
You got to write that down quick before you forget.
I know. I'm glad this is
it's recorded.
Yeah, it's recorded. We've got it. Okay, so comfort now is, and then that means now what perhaps used to be a panic zone for me now becomes discomfort. So we keep on growing, and in this way, our capacity for discomfort grows as well. And that is so important. You want to talk about resilience. Resilience is, being able to stick through that hard stuff, right? When things get uncomfortable, and rather than running, is going, okay, pause. I'm going to sit with this. And that is extremely challenging. That it's uncomfortable for a reason, because it's that. It's exactly that. It is uncomfortable. And and that can look like sitting with tough emotions, you know, which we have this movement almost sometimes, I suppose, this addiction to everything being happy. Yeah. Which then means we label anything that's not happy as like bad almost. Yeah. It isn't bad to be feeling sad and insecure and challenged and to be doubtful and to question things. I think what's important is that we're able to sit with those feelings and use that as something that's teaching us about ourselves. But yeah, when you believe that comfort and ease are the only
ways to get things,
then you're really not building any type of resilience. And I get it, because I think we all fall into that trap from time to time, naturally. But if you see resilience as a muscle, then it's something that can be trained and can be developed and can be built. Yeah. And that comes from leaning into discomfort, leaning into challenge, and then trusting that time of growth.
It's so funny because I want full disclosure, everyone out there. Like, it's not like we're sitting here and going, haha, we know everything.
No, absolutely not.
And this is where people start to go, okay, people like us who are obviously experts in different sides of the field, we do things like ask for help. We adapt that white belt mentality that helped us get into our mastery of what we've done. And we go, hey, look, I'm learning something new now. I'm going to ask every single question.
Right.
I'm going to be comfortable in the discomfortable, like just sit with it. And one thing I would say, because every single year I try and find something new that I want to master or remaster. So in the past, I've done bodybuilding, then I've done powerlifting, then I did Olympic weightlifting. Olympic weightlifting was the one thing I hated the most. I hate it and I love it all at the same time. Because at that time, I was in the gym for 10 years, lifting a barbell up and down. And someone goes, you know what, now you're going to throw it in the air and catch it. I was like, why?
What?
Yeah, no, right? Stupid. And then I kept falling on my ass. I literally kept falling on my ass 10th year in the gym. And I hated it so much. And I just told myself, I said this to myself, I said, you'll thank yourself in 5 years. You'll thank yourself in 5 years. Just go to the gym. You'll thank yourself in 5 years. And well, I'm not going to lie, I hate it still. I do thank myself because I finally ticked it off my list and I'm never going to do it again.
Nice, right. So that's interesting. So where do you think then the balance is between sticking through something, I suppose, like, do we stick through something just for the sake of sticking do we stick through something just for the sake of it, just for sticking through it? Or because I also think perhaps it's important to know when is the right time to call it, right? Yeah. Like, quitting isn't necessarily bad. No, failing isn't bad at all. And sometimes it is absolutely important to discern when is it that I'm just being lazy and I want to quit, or actually this is not the right move for me and so I need to pivot now. So for you, like, where was this? How does this fall for you?
It fell for me. So it's funny you said that, because I have back injuries and I've had for the last few years. And I knew in my younger years, because I played a lot of basketball and football and I used to get tunneled a lot, which is where my lower back injuries, I think, came from. Right. People would, for those who don't know what tunneling is, you jump, someone would smash you through your legs and you fall on your back. That happened to me multiple times per week since I was 15. It was great. I loved it. Should have learned trampolining. And then I started getting back injuries when I started doing some powerlifting, did my rehab, so I did a lot of Pilates. And I told myself, you know what, if you can stick through this, then you'll never have to pay for physio again. Did it.
Was that the case?
Yeah.
Have you never paid for physio again?
Oh, I go to physio maybe once a year now. Right. I used to go every second week.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was
That's huge.
Start actually learning it. And then after that, I started getting really bad back injuries in the last 5 years, ever since I turned 27. And the one time where it really hit me was when I started getting nerve pain. One time only. And I couldn't walk, I couldn't sneeze, I couldn't talk, couldn't laugh, I couldn't walk up a 1 centimeter incline after physiotherapy. Yes. And my now wife was laughing really hard, and I was laughing too, don't get me wrong. So it's not like she was bullying me. But then, like, later in the weeks, I actually started breaking down and go, is this going to be permanent?
Right.
So then I started going, okay, I need to make sure I pivot because it's long term. this could be potentially long-term dangerous. And although I love to squat and deadlift heavy, now I have to put my ego aside and go, what's my long-term journey? So that's when it's time to quit. When it starts putting your life in danger, but there's other ways to do it. And I love feeling strong, don't get me wrong. I love being able to do the deadlift, which works my legs and quads. But I was like, use a brain, Sean. You've also got too much debt in an exercise physiology degree. Use it and start to pivot.
Right.
And that's when I believe it's time to change, when it becomes too dangerous in your life.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, for you, that sounds like the right move. It was interesting there that you mentioned the ego, and I think that's important to reflect upon as well, is that sometimes we, when you're talking about sticking through something, am I doing this because it is genuinely right for me? Or am I doing this, is it my ego? Is it, am I trying to prove something to other people? I don't think that we are going to get that answer right every time. I think that comes with experience and also trusting yourself, learning more about yourself and knowing what's authentic and genuine for you. But yeah, I suppose for you it sounded like that was going to be a big, it sounds like it would have had a massive impact on your life if you didn't stop.
That's why we wanted to show people out there exactly what you do in yoga. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks.
Because not only was that, I've been working in the fitness industry for almost 11 years now. That's my second yoga class because I missed every single yoga class because I'm working during those peak times and it sucks and I hate it. But it was also one of those things, it's like I now am able to feel more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And also, now I don't look at things that I want to be good at. I want to look at the process of how I can get better at it, which brings us back to the very first thing you were talking about. You were saying, like, you didn't like running.
Yeah.
You're the fittest that you are at this age right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am. And
if we found something that you wanted to do and you weren't good at it right now, you would probably say, yeah, I can invest in it because I know the process. It's kind of similar with everything. There's going to be this weird phase where I'm like, what's this and what's that? What's this? The white belt mentality. You ask the questions and you go, oh, it's the same kind of blueprint. It just takes time.
For sure. And I've just accepted, it's funny because you referred to me as an expert. I definitely do not consider myself an expert at anything.
Every expert always says they're an expert.
No, but I'm really not. Oh my goodness. I consider myself truly a jack of all trades, a master of none. And you know what? I am not someone who is naturally good at physical stuff. Okay, so for instance, my two main hobbies, the stuff that really consumes my time now, besides yoga, is freediving in the summer and snowboarding in winter. Freediving, I grew up terrified of deep water. As in, I used to cry in deep water. And I was not comfortable being in the water if I couldn't see the ground. You know what Perth beaches are like?
Stonefish.
There's I'm not even sure I even ever came across any stonefish, but if there were some waves and I'd get dunked under for a little bit, I'd start to freak out. I was terrified of drowning. And I started with scuba diving, moved to take my first freediving class in the Philippines. And it was extremely uncomfortable. It was challenging, but there was also that glimmer of hope because it was something that I enjoyed about it. And I must admit that my personality is one that enjoys challenge. So I do like to push myself. And I do that in a lot of respects, but especially I think with something physical, I'm like, okay, this is cool. There's something fun about this and something challenging.
It was a want to be better at it.
Yeah. And I did. I was like, okay, I want to. And then am I willing to? And I was 2 years ago, I went to Bali. I spent 5-6 months there training to get better at it, to move through a lot of the fear that still comes up. And each season that I come back to diving, some of that fear still comes back, some of the discomfort. I've been at, for example, 40 meters multiple times, so many times. 40 meters is an easy dive for me, and yet the first time I go back, there's still something that creeps up, but it is something that I do believe becomes quieter the more used to it you get, and the more that you expose yourself to it. And I don't think I told you this. Did I tell you that I used to be, kind of still am, like, I had a debilitating fear of heights? Did I tell you that?
No, but I'm scared of heights, so I can relate.
Okay, so I grew up, this is not an understatement. You can ask any of my friends who have been on a bridge with me. I would cry walking across bridges. I'm talking, the bridge connecting the train station, like Leaderville,
yeah,
which is a huge cement bridge, but it crosses over the freeway. I would cry walking across that. I would cling onto whoever I could to walk across that. That's how bad it was.
Kind of like the footbridge that's connecting Carousel.
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
I'll probably say yes.
Yeah. So like that. And 6 years ago, well, probably a few years before that, I was like, I can't live this way. This is so frustrating. I don't want to be afraid of heights. And I also love adrenaline. So anyway, 6 years ago, started traveling, went to South America and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to cure my fear of heights.
Yeah.
And I did that. I was like, all right, how am I going to do this? I'm going to jump off some cliffs into water. This is how I'm going to do it.
It's not called graded exposure. What do they call it? Exposure therapy?
100% exposure therapy.
You scared of spiders or chuck a spider on you?
So I was like, all right, I'm going to start with like 1 or 2 meters, jump off into water, connection with fun. I was like, sweet, okay, keep going. And I went from jumping off a 1 meter cliff into water, went up to 5, 6, 7,
Damn.
10. The most I've done is a 15 meter jump. Like jumping off a cliff into water. If you said to Amanda of 10 years ago that you were going to stand on a cliff 15 meters above water and you're going to purposely jump off, there's no way she would believe you. Mm-hmm. There's just no way. And that was an extremely uncomfortable process. But I did it again so that I wouldn't go into panic zone. If you had gotten me from the start to jump off 15 meters, no chance.
Yeah.
But by slowly exposing myself, like now I can cross bridges without crying.
Well, I should hope so. You just jumped 15 meters.
But yeah, I know. But I can cross bridges. I've gotten so much better. And sometimes that fear still comes back. You know, there are aspects of heights that still make me uncomfortable. I get a bit of vertigo and stuff. But same thing, like, I want to snowboard. Guess what's part of snowboarding? Sitting on a chairlift, pretty high off the ground.
Falling in your ass.
Lots of falling, yeah. I've been on, pretty sketchy mountain conditions where I'm like, oh my gosh, I could fall and break everything. But you push through. And I think if there is a willingness, a true willingness to do what it takes to reach a goal, you can.
You'll find a way.
Yeah, there's, and it's so, the challenge is in the mind, so much more than the body. And you're right, that process you learn over and over again. And that's what perhaps a lot of us miss out on, that lesson from, depending on how you grew up. Were you someone who was pushed towards discomfort and shown that it's safe to challenge yourself and that you can be successful? Or were you someone who was just told to stick to what's comfortable?
It's so interesting because obviously now we're going back to the green, yellow, red. If you were maybe a young person who got pushed into that panic zone all the time, that's probably why you are not.
Definitely, yeah.
There's going to be a place where some people will adapt a little bit better to the red zones, where some people need to be more in the high green zones before yellow, and some people between yellow and red. And either you don't want to go into a red zone too much. You just either sink or swim too much. You need to know where you are. So green, yellow, yellow, green, yellow, red, graded, it's like jumping off cliffs apparently.
Yeah.
Look, I could probably think myself, yeah, I could do that. I don't want to be not afraid of heights. It's not as debilitating, don't get me wrong. But if I look down, I will probably start vomiting.
Right.
I don't like heights. But that's just so deep, and I really want to leave it there because 2 reasons.
Your
information overload, and also my laptop's going to die, and I don't want to risk this.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on our podcast. Hopefully, for those of you listening, that this perspective has helped you. Coming from both of us, and sharing how uncomfortable we have been, and it does get better. You just got to find out if you're in that green zone, yellow zone, or your red zone, and obviously an expert can help you with that. I'm not going to help you with what green, yellow, reds are with heights, though. I can't do that. Exercise.
Come to me.
Yeah, go find some clips in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Now, Amanda, if people who are listening want to be able to follow you in your journey and what you do as well, how can they find you?
For now, you can find me on Instagram at Amanda Tran, Letran.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's it for now. There's stuff in the making in the background, but we'll see.
In the future, if you're listening to this podcast, in 2025 when Amanda's made it and you still can't find her and you're listening to my podcast, just send me a DM. I might be able to help you out.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to our podcast. Thank you, Amanda, for jumping on board and teaching us yoga.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And for anyone else listening out there, if you want any help towards maybe learning something uncomfortable, maybe learning how to cook, because we have cookbooks on our links in our bio for free, head over to the Instagram account, which is Sean.momentum. We've got plenty of free things that can help you out with your journeys. And hopefully this will help you build momentum as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
everybody.